And I actually finished it already. I mean, it is a very, very short book to get through. And there are a lot of illustrations, as you've seen just a few seconds ago. And even less text to read because of that. And it's written in German, which also means that I can read it faster than in English. So this was a very good start to this reading vlog, where I want to prioritize winter books and Christmas books since it is December. You've seen the stack that I choose my books from. I will probably not get to all of them, but I'll try, as always in my reading vlogs, to read as many as I can. So yeah, finished the first one after just a few days into December, and I gave this collection of short stories 4 stars. It would be 3.5 stars, but you can't do that on Goodreads. But yeah, on Storygraph I put in 3.5 stars. There are a few stories that I knew already, but also the majority of these stories are ones that I have never read, never even heard of. So got the whole contents in here. It is German, but I can talk about every story just very briefly and mention the original, well, not the original, the English title. But first off, the cool thing about this collection is that it is consisting of all kinds of stories from all over the world. And for example, for this one, which is called The Apple Tree Man in English, it is from Britain. It always says so under the title of the story, and then you get just a brief paragraph about the story, what it is about, and why it may be important to the country where it came from. And then it just starts with the story. It's written in a very modern way, so all readers can read these and enjoy them. I think they are also slightly abridged, but I'm not sure about that. I think they are a little shorter than the original. But yeah, didn't compare them, so I'm not sure if that's true. So just for the diversity, there are all kinds of stories, all kinds of places. Do I have a good example? Yeah, for example, this one, which is The Snow Maiden, and this is from Russia. So yeah, it was very interesting to read from other countries. So back to the contents page right here. The first story, The White Bear King, I gave 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. It was like a very classic fairy tale, but I did like it. Also, a lot of these stories feature animals in them, which was very cute, and we have a diversity in terms of who these stories might be targeted to. So a few of these stories feel like they are for very, very young readers, and I often didn't enjoy them as much, but they were very cute nonetheless. So the first one, The White Bear King, is from Norway, and it is something I've never read before, but I gave it 5 out of 5 stars and really enjoyed it. And then the second one is Tanuki's Gold, and this one's from Japan. Very cute, very simple story, but I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. It's very much about the friendship and companionship, but also joy, nature. I don't know, yeah, no, there was some nature in it, and I don't know, I just really liked it. Most of these stories talk about friendship, companionship, family, joy, nature, that kind of stuff, and just life in general. And some of them are set around Christmas, some just feature very atmospheric winter tales, and a few of them are also set in January or around New Year's Eve, or they just talk about seasons in general. There are, I think, 2 or 3 examples for that. So yeah, good range of topics right here. Then the next story was The Mitten from the Ukraine, which I didn't enjoy as much, gave it 2 stars. I liked the idea, it reminded me of something from my childhood, a story that I read, but I don't know, I didn't really get the point, I think. The next one was A Cloak for the Moon, which had a very nice premise, but I think it was just a little bit too short and just stopped at a point where I thought it was just beginning to get somewhere, but it was a nice premise. Oh, and this one was from Poland. Then a very well-known classic, The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffmann, which I gave 5 stars to. Obviously, this is one of the 2 stories that I have read before. Next up, a story from Mexico, which has a name that I have no idea how to pronounce. The poinsettia, no idea. It's this flower, I think, what it is called after, and really like what it is about. I gave it 3 stars because it was just fine, but it has some really interesting themes in here. Next up, Wee Robin Redbreast from Scotland. Again, it was fine. Gave it 2 stars. Didn't really see the point in that story, but it was cute. Quite repetitive. I think it is for very young readers, so yeah, maybe that's why I didn't love it as much. But you have like on every single page illustrations, which just makes it so much more fun. And the next up is The Little Black Cat, and I enjoyed it very much. It's a story from France, and I mean, I am kind of biased because I own a black cat, so maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much if I didn't. Gave it 4 stars, so it's not a new favorite, but it was enjoyable for sure. Next up, the one from Russia, The Snow Maiden. Really liked this one, but I only gave it 3 stars because again, it was very short and just ended, but the premise is very interesting for sure. Also very different from The Little Black Cat. So yeah, you can just read this whole book in one sitting because every story feels very different in the order that they are put in this collection. Next one is The Silver Pine Cones, which is from Germany, but I've never heard about it before, which is kind of funny because I am from Germany. And it was really interesting to learn about these pine cones for sure. I gave this story 3 stars. It was very enjoyable. It was just missing a little spark for me, I think. A little more variety in the story. Next up, The Apple Tree Man from England, which was fine. I don't know, I gave it 2 stars. I don't really remember what it was about, even though I've just read it like a few hours ago, but yeah, I don't really remember anything about it. And then Sister and Brother is from Siberia, which was very cool. Loved this one, gave it 5 stars. So definitely a new favorite. Got some pictures from the story right here. Very adventurous and great setting. Next up is The Mother of the Sea, which talks a lot about nature and how people treat it. Also a little bit about animals. And this is from Greenland. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Gave it 4 stars. Very, very different and interesting from all the other stories in here. And then there's The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen, which of course I've read before. Gave it 5 stars again because I just love that story. It's so interesting. Then we've got Rabbit's Gift, which is a very, very short story from China. Again, I think for very young readers. It was very cute, but nothing too special. I gave it 3 stars. Again, very much about just companionship and about animals, but you can take that message and put it on humans for sure. Then the next one, again, is very, very different from all the other stories. It's called The Children and the Sun, and it's from South Africa, and it doesn't really have a winter vibe or Christmas vibe in here, but it has very similar themes, and we've got the nature stuff in here, and life, and joy, and yeah, it was nice to have something different in here. only gave it 2 stars just because I wasn't expecting something so summery and hot in this kind of collection, but it wasn't a bad story for sure. There's not a single bad story in it, but I kind of have to have a ranking here. Next up is The 12 Months from Greece, which I also really liked. I gave it 4 stars, but it's almost 5. Love the idea. It's, well, as it says, not just about the winter months, it's about every single one and appreciating every single season and every month. And they were personified by people, and yeah, I really like that. Very cute story. And then the last one was Bridget and the Celiac, no idea how to pronounce it. So yeah, Scottish and Irish tradition, and it was fine. Again, don't really remember anything about it, gave it 2 stars because of that, but I think it was a nice way to end the collection since this is the last story. And yeah, talked about the stories. Lots of great stories in there for sure, but also a few that I didn't need to read. But yeah, I'm glad I got this collection and glad I finished my first book for the vlog, so we can move on to the next one. So let's choose the next book. And yeah, I've got all of these to choose from. Some of them are just wintry as Elatsue, and some I think would be perfect for Christmas as Krampus. And yeah, quite different. We've got some short stories, some historical fiction. I have no idea. Maybe some fantasy. Definitely some fantasy in here. I think also some Russian vibes. A retelling of something, I don't know what right now. And some horror. And then this one is historical and a retelling of the Nutcracker, and I think this would be perfect because I just read the Nutcracker story in the anthology. So yeah, I think I'll pick this one up. I've read one book by Gregory Maguire before, which was After Alice. Really loved it. I know the ratings are very bad on Goodreads for like almost every book by him, but I don't know, I enjoyed it, so hopefully I'll enjoy this one as well. The very cool thing about it is that it has this picture on the Naked Heart cover, which is just very cool. So yeah, very excited about this one. I think it follows like the toy maker who built the Nutcracker in the well-known story, so don't know what his name was again. Oh, there's After Alice mentioned. Nice. And it also takes place in Munich. Interesting, I didn't know that. And yeah, it's the backstory of the Nutcracker and follows Drosselmeyer. That's his name. Yeah, very interested in that one. I'm expecting great things. And I'm almost done now. Didn't have time for an update earlier. And this is pretty good so far. I have like the perfect bookmark for it. But I've only like 50 pages to go until I'm finished with the story. And it looks like only now it starts with the stuff that we know from the original fairy tale, and everything else, all the 200 pages right here, were about just Drosselmeyer's childhood, teenage years, early adulthood, and also later adult life. And yeah, just basically very much like historical fiction, with a few fantastical elements in there, which were very, very interesting for sure. We've got a lot of talk about just fairy tales in general, which is super cool, especially in the beginning of the story. There's a lot of references and also similarities, and just basic mentions to describe something, because the early Drosselmeyer was told a lot of fairy tales as a child, so he does mention them from time to time in these first few chapters. He grows up in this forest in a hut with no town, no other neighbors nearby, which was very interesting. And at the end of part 2, since I'm at part 3 now, we find out who these people are that he lives with, because they are not his real parents, and that twist was very cool. It has to do with fairy tales, so that was so nice. And there's also one mention of an ancestor of the Grimm brothers, which was also really, really cool, because it was something that was mentioned at the beginning of the story, like in the first chapters, really. And then, I don't know, 100 pages later, something else was mentioned about it, where I just thought, oh yeah, right, that is a possibility. So that was very, very cool as well. And then, since that's not enough, we also have some mythology in here, and some mythology, fantastical stuff going on. And our main character, Drosselmeyer, has some weird visions about it. Don't want to give away too much, but it is about Greek mythology. And there's also one line in here which mentions the similarity between Athena, the goddess, and the fairy godmother from Cinderella, like bibbidi bobbidi boo, you know. And that was super interesting. I don't know if that's a very well-known thing that people talk about, because I don't think I've ever heard about it before. And I mean, it makes sense. So that was very, very nice, very well written as well. I also like the historical aspects in here. Drosselmeyer travels a lot. There's always new places and new people to know. There's also a slight LGBTQ stuff going on in here. And at the beginning of the story, there's something very violent happening as well. And I thought, wow, this is going into a very, very dark direction right now. But, well, it basically was just at the beginning and wasn't that dark later on. Well, that said, there was some stuff around the middle of the book, later half of the book, where some weird stuff was going on as well. And also some very tragic stuff. for sure. So yeah, maybe it is kind of dark, but that is a point of fairy tales, right? The original fairy tales are kind of dark, so that is very befitting. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. We also learn a lot about this other friend of Drosselmeyer's, who is called Felix, and he is very much into music. So we have got a lot of stuff about music in here as well. For example, about Bach, but also about Chopin, and just music in general and what it does to us, what it means to people. So that was very, very cool as well. And it's nice to see how Drosselmeyer gets interested in toys and making stuff out of wood and so on. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how the actual retelling is going to be like now. But so far it's a very solid book. Not 5 stars as After Alice was, but a very, very, very good 4 stars for sure. Maybe even 4.5. Oh, and yeah, one more thing. We have a lot of German words in here, since it is said in Germany. Not only in Munich, he travels around a lot. And I mean, it is called Hiddensee, which is near Rügen at the Baltic Sea. So yeah, from the south to the north, goes even abroad for just a few sentences, I think it was only. And what I also think is interesting is that the book is written, or was written, in Greece, I think. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it makes sense for the mythology aspects, but wouldn't have expected this to have been written in Greece when it is about the Nutcracker, and it does take place a lot in like autumn and winter season, but not that much. Maybe it changes in these last 50 pages, but it's not the perfect winter read for sure. It's very much just historical fiction and not that Christmassy or wintry per se. I mean, it follows a lot of years, so obviously we don't have just winter in here. There's every season in here for sure. And yeah, for the German words, there's a lot of German words. I really didn't care because, I mean, I know every German word in here, so I didn't care. But we've got like stuff like, I probably won't find one now that I'm looking for it. But yeah, like places, and even stuff like Hiddensee isn't translated in the slightest, as well Meersburg, and also expressions like ach, or stuff like how you call someone, like there's Fräulein and then the name afterwards, and also Pfarrer Johannes and something like that in here, and all kinds of stuff. Of course I won't find anything, but there's a lot of stuff in here. Also a few minor mistakes about that, but it's alright. It's not too wrong. So yeah, really like that as well, and excited to see how it ends, and whether it ends with just the retelling stuff that we know of, or because it says and future Nutcracker, if there's stuff afterwards, and if the fantastical aspect is taking a bigger role. Because, I mean, this third part is called The Story of the Nutcracker and the Mouse King. And if you've read the story, you know that there is a lot of fantastical stuff in it. So really excited to see if it's in here as well, or if it's just something that a person imagines. So yeah. way to go. I'll hopefully finish it very soon and talk about it with you. It's already the 10th of December right now, so I really need to finish some more books for the vlog. So yeah, I think I'll see you. The update was way too long. This one can only mean one thing. Has to be Harry Potter Minolima. Pretty sure about that, so let's find out. yeah, I might have read a few books without updating you at all, and the month is almost over now. So I had my Christmas. I am very much looking forward to the new year, and yeah, I just had to talk about all of the books that I've read for Christmas just to end the vlog. So yeah, I have finished all the books that I really wanted to read for Christmas, and I only have winter related books left to read in January or February. Maybe I'll do a vlog for those as well, because there are 4 of them left, which are those 4 books right here, which I think, or I hope, will fit perfectly into the winter season. But yeah, the ones about Christmas or set around Christmas, I did manage to finish. So first off, as I've hopefully said, I read the backstory of the toy maker Drosselmeyer. I really enjoyed it, gave it 4 stars. It's very much a historical fiction book, not very Christmassy, so not the perfect book for this vlog, but in general it's a very, very nice book. Don't know what else to say about it without spoiling anything, but yeah, I liked it. It's not my favorite Gregory Maguire book, but not a letdown at all. And then after that I needed something different, so I picked up this horror book, Krampus by Brom, which I've only read one other book before, which was Slewfoot, and I really, really liked that one, so I had high expectations for it. And I must say that I didn't really enjoy this book, unfortunately. I think I will keep it, just because of the illustrations, and the premise itself was very unique. Never read anything about Krampus before. Funnily enough, the book after that has something about him as well, but yeah, I liked it. I liked the ideas in it for sure about Krampus and all the legend behind it and how Brom twisted it, making him very interesting character, but also quite depressing, melancholic, not really a frightening villain as he's depicted on this cover. So that was weird. I also liked the stuff about Santa Claus and all his backstory. We learn about both backstories about Krampus's and also Santa Claus's. So that was really cool. Loved how it was connected, how it all made sense somehow. And yeah, this is written in a contemporary setting, and it mainly follows just a normal human being who's struggling in life in all kinds of senses, like with relationships, with work, self-esteem, fulfilling dreams or not, drugs, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was also very melancholic, not really something I like to read about, but it also has other POVs in here. Like we also have POV of Krampus, sometimes also Santa Claus, and sometimes also about some more or less random people here and there. So that was really cool to have more POVs than just one, but it does just follow this one story. It's not like there are different timelines really. You just get to read the story from different perspectives. So yeah, as I've said, there's a lot of drugs, rock and roll vibes, and also gunfights, a lot of action scenes. Really felt like watching a horror. No, I would have loved to watch a horror movie in my head while reading this, but it was more of an action movie. Maybe a thriller, not a horror at all, for me personally, at least. The things going on in there in general are probably horrific, but yeah, there was no atmosphere for me, and there were just a few scenes in there which felt like horror, especially the torture scenes. Not going to say anything specific about those, but they were good. And as I've said, the whole mythology stuff, in this case Norse mythology, that was good as well. Everything else just wasn't really for me. I mean, the illustrations are great always. Brom just does amazing illustrations. It's kind of crazy that he is a good writer and a good, well, artist illustrator. Blows my mind all the time that he does his illustrations himself. So that was really nice, and I also like the initial idea about this magical sack that is mentioned in here. That was really cool. It was mentioned in like chapter 2 or something. It's not a spoiler at all. Reminded me a little bit of Gwendy's Button Box by Stephen King and the other one that he was writing it with. I'm so sorry, but I forgot the name of the author. Love Gwendy's Button Box, and yeah, I just had similar vibes with this magical sack in here, but only at the beginning. Fell flat afterwards, not really mentioned in a unique way after that. Just at the end there was some interesting stuff about it again, but yeah, would have loved to know more about this fantasy aspect instead of all the contemporary stuff going on in here. So yeah, it was nice. I'm glad I read it, even though I didn't really love it. Gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars in total, so yeah, not the best rating, but it was alright. It's not really something that is bad in any way. The writing was still good. It's just not something that interests me, and I didn't know that before going into the book, so it might have been just my own fault. And the last book is also a short story collection by a lot of well-known, very cool authors. Some I've read from before, some I just own books by, and I'm really excited to read them, and a few I think I haven't heard of before, but just a few. And there was another short story collection previous to this one, which was also similar. Like, it had dark winter or Christmas short stories in there as an anthology, so by different authors again. And yeah, I haven't read the first collection, but I just really wanted to pick this up. I don't think I even own the first one. But yeah, read that, didn't disappoint at all. I mean, because it is an anthology by all kinds of authors, the ratings are all over the place. So these are all the stories in here. There are a lot of them that I really loved. A few of them I just thought that they were okay, but there's not a single story in here that I would say is really bad. Just not for me, probably. So in total, all of these stories were quite dark, quite atmospheric, and although they are short stories, as you can see, they are not super short. Like, they are not 10 pages long. It's about 20 to 30 pages, I think, with all of those. So that was good because it helped building up all the tension and developing the characters, so that was good. I think I didn't enjoy some of these stories as much because they were quite predictable. You knew for most of these how they would end or in what direction they would go into. So that's the only thing that I would say I didn't love about this collection. But other than that, there's all kinds of stuff in here. They are very unique to each other, although they are all similar in the sense that they all take place around Christmas. Almost all of them are set in Great Britain. And well, as I've said, they are quite dark. Oh, and also most of these are set in some kind of historical setting. Sometimes it's mentioned, sometimes it's just the feeling that you get as a reader that it's probably more set in a historical time period. So we've got stuff in the 18th century, 19th, 20th century. I think these are all set around those times. And all very unique, have very unique ideas. I think all of them, or almost all of them, had something in there that I have not read about before. Like, as you can see, the gargoyle can't really remember a lot of dark, atmospheric, ghosty tales about a gargoyle. And yeah, same goes for almost all of them. In Jenkin we've got an imaginary friend, also something that I don't really read about a lot. So yeah, was very cool. I'll go through those fairly quickly, tell you my rating. So my overall rating was 3.4 out of 5 stars, which is quite good for a short story collection. I don't really give out 4 stars for a short story collection. It has to be a really good collection to get that kind of rating, so 3.4 is quite good. So the first one by Karen Millwood Hargrave is a story that I liked, 4 out of 5 stars, and it's about a demon in a historical setting, about a seance, and also about grief. Yeah, don't want to give too much away, don't want to say anything about the plot really. I think the ending was a little bit cringy, but other than that, really liked it, and it's also an author that I've read from before, so yeah, glad that I enjoyed something else by them. Then by Laura Shepard, Robinson Inferno, which was quite interesting, gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, which is my second best rating for this collection. And this one, as you might have already guessed from the title, is about Dante's Inferno. So that was cool. We've got stuff about art, about sins, obviously, and it's also set in a historical setting in the 1700s and takes place, I think, in an Italian villa it was. So that was very interesting. Didn't really like the main character, that's why I couldn't give it 5 stars, but other than that, I really like this one. Then by Andrew Michael Hurley, The Old Play was very interesting. I only gave it 3 stars, but that's just because it was quite predictable. But the setting was really cool. We've got this stage performance that always takes place on an annual basis in December. And yeah, this time it's a bit different than the years before, but it was very cool idea. And we've got a father and son relationship in here. Then a double threat by Imogen Hermeskova, I have no idea how to pronounce this name, I'm sorry, was also interesting, but I only gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. Just because, again, quite predictable, didn't like the characters. In The Old Play, it makes sense. I think it's on purpose that this is an unlikable character, but it's still written in a way that it didn't get on my nerves. But in a double threat, I hated this fucking main character so much. So, yeah. What can I say about it? It's about this unlikable character who is commissioning a gown from someone for the Christmas ball. I think that's all I can say. Loved stuff about this making of the gown. We learn a lot about that. So that was cool. Always love stuff like that. And it's also historical and set in, I think it was Cornwall. Then the next one, The Salt Miracles, is also one of my favorites in here. Gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's written by Natasha Pulley. Very excited about some books that she wrote that I have not read yet. So The Salt Miracles was really cool. It's set on an island where our main character goes to research something, because it's said that there's some strange stuff going on. There are some miraculous cures, apparently. He wants to just research that, and then there are also people missing. So yeah, he just wants to try to find out what's going on there. And it's also about pilgrimage. So yeah, don't want to give away anything, but this was very cool, very dark. Loved it. Then Elizabeth McNeil's Banished. Now this one was about a woman who's able to talk with ghosts or spirits and to banish them. This one's set in Scotland in the 1700s again, and it's also based on a true story. And at the end of the story we get like one page from the author who's explaining what actually is true and what she imagines herself. So that was really, really cool. Loved it. Again, the ending was predictable, but it was written in a very good way. Loved the atmosphere in that. And yeah, it had some horrific scenes in there as well. So gave it 4 stars again. Then the next one, The Gargoyle, as I said, ghostly tale about gargoyle is something that I have not really read a lot before. And I mean, I only gave it 2 stars. It's one of the worst stories in here, but that's just because it's very calm. Not a lot is going on. There are some vibes that reminded me of this one season from American Horror Story, which was in double feature, Red Tide, I think it's called, yes. Just the vibes, the plot, not at all. So we've got a lot of stuff about struggles that authors have and writing your manuscript, going some place where you usually are not to find inspiration to rewrite your manuscript. So that was just in a few sense similar to that season. And yet then we've got this gargoyle in there as well. Now the next one, The Master of the House by Stuart Turton, was the best one out of all of these stories. 5 out of 5 stars, without a doubt. Really excited about Stuart Turton's other books now. I own the one about Evelyn Hardcastle, 7.5 Lives or something. So super excited about that now because I loved this one. It's right up my alley about survival in one place, and this time it's your family home. Yeah, nothing too crazy, just the place where you always live. And it follows a father who is trying to find his son who's gone missing in this house. And yeah, the rooms are very different from what they are normally, and stuff is changing around it. So that's just what I love in my horror. So yeah, very, very pleased about the story being in here. Loved it very, very much. Then after that, I don't know if it's just not as good because I just read The Master of the House, but Ada Lark by Jess Kidd wasn't my kind of story. Also gave it 2 out of 5 stars. And this one is about Ada Lark, who's an orphan girl, and she's working for a psychic or medium. So got seances again, also historical, and I didn't really understand the ending, to be honest. Maybe I just didn't pay enough attention, but yeah, I didn't get the ending. Didn't understand it at all. Then Jenkin, I said it's about an imaginary friend, was very excited about because it's by Catriona Ward, but it was just alright. Gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So this one was about 2 sisters and they have to move somewhere else because their parents have passed away. So yeah, it's about this sisterly relationship, stuff that happened in the past, and this imaginary friend, which is not really a friend, shows up whenever one of the main characters is lying. So it was a very cool premise, and I also liked the ending very much. But yeah, I don't know, the middle wasn't that exciting in my opinion. Then Widow's Walk by Susan Stokes-Chapman, also gave it 3 out of 5 stars. But this one was very good. Very good writing, very good atmosphere in there. Just too predictable, but the ending was good again. So this is very unique. We've got a widowed fan maker. So she's got her own fan shop, getting all kinds of commissions right now for the, I don't know, is it a Christmas ball again? Something like that. So she has to do some really nice fans for a lot of people, and one commission is quite special. And yeah, we just follow her doing that, struggling with something else. And yeah, it's also historical. liked it, but wasn't blown away. And the last one, Carol of the Bells and Chains by Laura Purcell, which was also quite good. 3.5 out of 5 stars for that one. And it's also historical. In this one we follow a governess, so she cares for the children for another family, and she also lives with them. And for Christmas she's also staying there, not going home herself. So yeah, it's just about that, teaching the children and telling them the legend of Krampus as well. And I really like the ending because it's quite ambiguous. Like, you don't really get an answer. You don't know if there's just bad people at this place or if there's something fantastical going on. So I really like that the reader has to decide between those two outcomes. Yeah, don't want to give away anything, but that in itself was quite good. So yeah, very different, very cool short story collection. Really glad that I've read them for sure, and I'm really excited about the first one now. It has, I think, almost all the same authors, but maybe just 8 or 10 stories, because these are 12. It has less in there, but yeah, really excited about the other one. Maybe I'll read it for next Christmas. So if I were to rank all of these books, the best one was The Winter Speech that I've read. Next up comes Hidden Sea, then these short stories, We're Waiting for Christmas or whatever it's called in English, and then Krampus at the very end. So yeah, read 4 books. I somehow almost always read 4 books in one vlog. It's not intentional, it's just what happens. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the vlog. I'm glad with what I managed to read. And I also wish you a happy new year, because it's almost time for the fireworks at my place when this video goes up. And yeah, I hope I see you in my next video, hopefully soon. And until then, as always, take care, happy reading, and bye!